Hello and welcome to this episode of the Horse with No Name podcast. Doing it a little bit differently as we've done the last two. This is the third of four scheduled anyway, and podcast today coming to you via 9 different locations rather than the radio station on campus. So looking to honor our baseball seniors here with this podcast and looking forward to sharing some memories over the past couple of years. We have 5 four-year players, one of our largest 4-year groups of any team we've had in probably at least the 10 years I've been around, or 11 years. So really looking forward to sharing some memories. Do want to touch on the season being canceled because of COVID-19. So try to keep it as uplifting as possible. But there are some downturns in the podcast coming up about having your season canceled. So looking to touch on a lot of different topics here this evening. I do want to thank The Grill, our presenting sponsor, for continuing to sponsor the podcast even throughout these times. So really appreciate them. And Bob, how you doing?
Hey, Zach, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a fun day. We've been talking to a lot of students and coaches, and it's been great. Um, Before we got on here tonight, what were you out doing tonight?
I was watching the International Space Station fly by.
Yeah. How often do you actually ever get to do that? It's only times like this.
Tough times, man. So no, it's been great. We've been finding stuff like that to do with the family that probably didn't have time for. I'd probably be in my office doing something right now.
That's right.
Even though it's 9:30 at night, I'd probably still be in my office doing something. So yeah, this is our third podcast of the day, and it's 9:30 at night. So who knows what could happen here in the next hour with this group of guys. So it could get a little punchy. Looking forward to it. So no, but it's been an interesting month, that's for sure. And like we're going to talk about here, it seemed at the time to happen so quickly. And now as we reflect back and look back, it's probably even crazy that we were there the week we were there. And, it's amazing the knowledge you gain in the weeks following something this large. And we'll probably look back in another month and think, wow, we were doing stuff really wrong in the beginning of April too. So hopefully that's ending a little bit. But yeah, as we're going to talk about here in a little while, I think it was definitely a shock to cancel a season, and we didn't even get to see the baseball team play at home, and all the work they put in and things like that. Again, you don't want to say it wasn't a waste at all, because as we're going to talk about here, actually there's tons of relationships that did get built in just a short amount of time and are going to last despite the fact that the season ended. So we've heard a lot of great comments from our seniors in our first 2 podcasts today. Had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to another podcast here with this group of guys.
Yeah, so kind of like we've been doing earlier, we'll take an opportunity to introduce who all the guys are. Normally, we would have been doing this on the baseball field probably late April at one of the last final home games of the regular season. And so I know you already posted an article about the baseball team, and I hope folks will go check out lbcchargers.com and read the article there. In fact, you're also going to see in that article, there's one more guy that's in the article that is not with us tonight. He couldn't get off work early at all, and but it sounds like Luis is probably going to be, or Luis is going to be playing next year, hopefully. And so while this season didn't go the way he was expecting, it's great that NCAA is giving guys opportunities to come back if they so desire, and he's got another full year of school, so I think he'll be back next year. Anyway, let's meet who all the seniors are here on the baseball team that are with us tonight. First one up I will do is Colin Myers, and Colin is the son of Darren and Jody Myers, or as Colin likes to refer to him, Coach Myers.
Yeah, Colin, we're happy that you could join us tonight. Again, came to LBC from Penn State Berks, and after a year there, and really contributed the past 2+ seasons to LBC, and but did a little bit of everything. Could hit some clutch hits over the past couple of years. Played good defense in different positions there as well, and just really happy to have him with the program and his dad as well, and just excited to see what's going to happen going forward with Colin. And I know you're excited to be done with school, I'm sure, and looking forward to having you around the program as much as possible going forward.
Colin, you've been around LBC baseball now for a good three years or so. What are some of the things that stands out to you in your experiences with LBC baseball?
I think what stands out the most is I think what Coach Frank kind of harps on for all of us: Christian first, believer first, academic second, and athlete third. And I think that's really become noticeable in my life and my teammates' lives over the past 2 years, especially this past season.
As you think about your time, are there like, obviously that's awesome. I love hearing that. And what are some of the, like, what's one or two memories that you're going to walk away from this team with?
First memory would definitely have to be this year with a fellow teammate, Nick Bear. He was also ineligible his freshman year, so it was kind of a touching moment to see him on the mound, and then kind of just talking to him afterwards. It was very unique to see his growth through, being ineligible to becoming eligible and helping us out down in Myrtle. Second, I think would just be the times I had with the guys, even the seniors here. It's been an incredible 3 years, 4 years. I'm very thankful and grateful for the time.
That's awesome. And while Colin didn't play all 4 years for LBC, he did play 4 years of college baseball, and he came to us from Penn State Berks. So we're real thankful for all the contributions that Colin has made to this team as well. Our first 4-year senior that I'll introduce to y'all is Bo Hagee, and Bo is the son of Jeff and Tammy Hagee. Bo's been doing all kinds of different roles on the team. He'll catch, he'll pinch hit, he'll just be making all kinds of different plays.
Absolutely. Bo, again, first 4-year senior. I remember his first year. I think I had you in class that first year too. So I'll look up your grade in a little while. No, maybe not. No, I right away, the baseball IQ is off the charts. I came from Peckway Valley and caught, and I remember that was when Frank was an assistant coach still, and Frank caught as well during his time. And I know there was a relationship there pretty quickly, and again, could hit as well. But I knew right away that you were going to take care of the pitching staff. There was a couple other catchers on the team then as well that you learned from, and just kind of a nice collection there of catchers the past couple of years who could take care of the staff, but also knew what they were doing in their role as the catcher, and long days, long weekends, and long rides from upstate New York are a little unforgiving on the knees after catching 20, 25 innings, even more on some of those weekends. So, it's one of those positions where you know what you're signing up for, but that doesn't make it any easier when you actually have to go through it. So I know Bo worked really hard and improved as a hitter as well, I think, throughout college. Mm-hmm. Frank would be able to speak to that a little bit more, but definitely someone who embodied what the team was looking for and what the team needed at the time too, behind the plate.
Bo, as you think about where the program was when you came in 4 years ago and where it is today, what have you seen happen with Lancaster Bible College baseball?
I feel like it definitely improved from what I had my freshman year compared to now. At some points it felt like the team was separated at different times freshman year, but compared to now, like with Coach Frank, I'm going to go back to that, saying Christian student athletes. I feel like we definitely put that into our game plan. The guys, there's no separation in between us. I remember spring break this year, we all got together that last night and just talked about memories. Even the freshmen were talking, they remembered memories from this 2020 season. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's obvious how hard you guys work. I mean, not only is it the spring season, but fall ball is just as important as to what all you're doing. And do you have any one specific memory that stands out to you?
One specific memory? Oh, I got a lot of those, man.
You can do more than one if you need to.
I remember my experience freshman, sophomore year, my experiments in the outfield, then first base as well. They weren't the greatest experiences, but they're definitely the most interesting. I remember all the guys laughing, okay. And then probably one of my favorite moments was this 2020 season though. This is the most together I've seen the guys come to. I felt like I really connected with a lot of the freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and so on. So that's one of my favorite moments. Well,
That's
two,
all.
I guess. Three.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Another 4-year senior that we're going to meet right now is Nate McFarland. And Nate is the son of Jeff and Wendy McFarland. And Nate has just truly been involved, not only with baseball, but he's taken on a role with the student union this year.
Yeah, I think when you talk about Nate, I think I see a well-rounded individual who worked really, really hard. I think I'm pulling up the stats now. 7 at-bats as a freshman to 38 to 85. And we're talking 27 hits, 24 runs last year. You don't stumble upon 27 hits and 24 runs scored in a collegiate baseball season. So that takes a lot of work, and started 7 of the 9 games this year already too. So in addition to, Bob, what you're saying about someone who's working hard off the field, I'm seeing hard work on the field too. I think that that's something that a lot of guys on this team have done, and I think that Nate and frankly all of you who are in front of us are going to leave that legacy for the underclassmen. Bill, you talk about how close-knit the group got. I think that's because of the hard work they've seen you guys putting in. And if you guys know that your jobs might not be safe in the field, then they know that they have to work hard too. And I think you guys have quietly embodied that for them. And Nate, I think that you're one of the people at the top of that list for sure.
Nate, and when you think about hearing what Zach's saying there, the hard work, how do you balance everything that you're involved with?
I mean, it takes time and effort into balancing it. I think it's hard. I mean, I know I want to do both of those. So having that commitment that I really want to do that, and God has given me gifts to do that. So it's just kind of like my job to now steward the time that God has given me and just try to make it fit. I can't really tell you how I do it. I just do it, I guess.
Yeah. And as I was asking some of those other guys, what's a memory or two so far for you that like just really stands out to you about your time with LBC?
Well, I have 2. My freshman year, I could not throw a ball.
I think that's what every coach wants to hear.
Yes, I know. I transferred in the spring of 2017, and one of my first practices was it was at not the Nook, but like Lanco Fieldhouse. Jay May, Josh Mayo asked me to be my throwing partner. So I'm like, okay, cool. A senior, upperclassman picked me. That's cool. And then I started to proceed to throw to him, and I could not hit him at all. Like everything was going up, down, side to side. I almost hit a couple of my teammates. Like it was bad. And I struggled for like the next year and a half with that. It was tough. It was really tough. Just looking back, it was funny. It's funny to look back and be like, wow, I did not know how to throw a baseball for a year and a half. And the second one was there was a recruit coming in, I think it was last year, in 18. And I got really scared because I heard his stats with in high school and how good he did and how he brought his team to a states. I'm like, shoot, wow, he's trying to take shortstop, so that stinks. Well, I'll still try work hard, try win a spot. And so I met the kid, and this kid was his name was Josh Softly. And when I first met him, he was like, I took him. He was like my hitting partner for the fall, and I was like, man, this kid gets angry so fast. I was just like, what the heck's going on? Why is he here? And I just was questioning that, but I'm like, you know what? I will work with him and see how things go with him. But honestly, it was a challenge, but also one of my favorite parts of being with a team is just being able to relate to him, and we just turn out to be good friends now, and just see his growth on the field and off the field is amazing to me.
Yeah, that's what's really cool is just the close-knit family that you guys have created here. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty awesome. Our third 4-year senior is Kyle Ebersole, and he's the son of JC and Lois Ebersole. Again, Kyle not only has done a lot of pitching for the team, but he's transitioned a little bit more this year to being more of a versatile role player on the team. But then again, kind of like Nate, has also been involved very heavily this school year as the student body president for Student Union.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just like we were talking about Nate, lots of great work off the field. And again, someone who worked hard on the field as well. Again, going from being just a steady starter all three of his first 3 years, helping the team out any way he could on the mound, a lot of big game starts. And to someone who transitioned to playing a little first and batting this year. I remember I got a text from Coach Frank, and yeah, Kyle got a hit. It was a home run. Like, it was just, it was just really, everyone was just really excited because they know how hard you've been working to do that. And I think everyone's just really happy for Kyle's success, whether it be baseball related, student government related, academically related, whatever it may be. I think Kyle is a successful person. He's going to be a successful person. And I think when people are humble like he is, I think it's easy to celebrate those successes. So I know that everyone was really happy when you were able to get a couple hits here this spring, but in addition to the hard work you put in those the first 3 years as well.
Kyle, it's been fun watching you just grow in your role in the team and everything is, going from a pitcher. What has that transition been like this year to not only pitch, but to being a field player now too?
Honestly, it was a lot of fun. In high school, I played in the field a little bit, and so it's just been dealing with arm problems the last couple of years. I just decided to stop hurting my arm more, and just enjoying the game of baseball. And so when Coach let me play first again, I was all for it. It was so much fun to be a position player again.
And anything else exciting happened in the last month or two for you, Kyle?
Yeah, so I got engaged about a month and a half ago. So, that pretty much tops everything that happened on the – I love baseball with all my heart, but I think an engagement goes pretty good ways above that.
Yeah, it does. And that's pretty exciting. So even though everything else got canceled, that's one thing that's not getting canceled, I'm sure.
Nope. It's a lifelong commitment. No COVID-19 can do anything to that one.
There you go. Well, that's pretty exciting. Our fifth year senior, Mike Van Dame, and he is the son of John and Marcia Van Dame. Zach, one of my own personal memories of Mike is meeting him because his high school coach that he ended with was Micah McClay. And I know.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah. So I kind of knew who Mike was a little bit coming into college just because Micah was constantly talking about him. So Micah and Frank played together for LBC. And anyway, now Mike is here and just been doing a phenomenal job out there in the outfield.
Yeah, I think Mike's defense comes to mind quickly, as Coach Frank said for the article, just makes tough plays look really easy and quick on the base path as well. Again, so we talked about Nate's stats a little bit. Mike worked really hard to improve his game, and 25 hits last year, 14 runs scored, 9 runs knocked in as well, and just, again, making that outfield position look really easy, which is really hard to do. And despite where our fence is, it actually is a kind of difficult place to play the outfield because you can, run into it pretty easily because it's right behind you. So, again, made that look really easy, and just a good guy to have around, a good guy to keep it light, but a good guy to know when the hard work needs to be able to put in. And again, just someone who really worked hard from freshman and sophomore year to be a difference maker on the field his last season plus at LBC. So, Mike, as you think about what it's been like playing for LBC baseball, how have you grown as a player, and what are you enjoying about it?
Yeah, baseball at LBC has been great. It's been definitely a roller coaster of a ride, but just all the relationships I've made on this team have definitely helped me become a better person and better player. And there's a lot of guys that just challenge me, and I hope to challenge them back. And as we grew this year and the previous 3 years.
Yeah, I asked some of the other guys this, and I actually forgot to ask Kyle, but I'll come back to him eventually there. What's a memory or two that stands out to you from your time at LBC baseball?
Yeah, pretty much every trip to New York was always a good memory. Definitely definitely whoever my roommates were, we always made the most of it. I think it was my freshman year. We went up to Cuca, and they had just built that new hotel, and it was like right out on the lake. So we were just having a blast in the pool down there, and then we ran out into the freezing cold lake, and yeah, just making those memories was a lot of fun. I'll miss that for sure.
Yeah, and there weren't even going to be any New York trips this year, were there?
Yeah, I think just DC trip maybe, but
Yep. So cool. And our final 5-year senior or 4-year senior, one of the 5, is Dan Zimmerman. And Dan is the son of David and Esther Zimmerman. And what's great and unique about Dan is his mom is actually on staff at the college as well. She's a professor in the church and ministry leadership department. So yeah, and it's been fun. Dan has just been consistent with his pitching and making an impact on the mound there.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of Dan, I'll just always think of how precise he always seemed and wanted to be when he pitched, and he's a great student worker for LBC too, and he does some of the floor, and I see the same precision and look when he's doing the floor with the cart that mops the floor. It's pretty amazing, actually. So no, finished with 11 career wins. I know it sounds unbelievable. We don't have very many double-digit career victory pitchers in program history. It's hard to get a win as a starter in college, especially at our field. Frank, you can go into that then. There's a lot of leads that evaporate or just a lot of high-scoring games where we use a lot of pitchers, and starters just don't get a ton of wins at least for us. Maybe I'm just speaking for us. But so 11 career wins, kind of a big deal in terms of LBC history. And then 5 of those wins coming last year. Started 9 games, had a complete game as a sophomore, and 60 strikeouts last year. Again, we don't have a lot of pitchers in our program history that have had that many strikeouts in a season. And again, just someone who could throw in big games, was ready to pitch, was mentally there on the mound too. That's very hard in college. Again, I'll let Frank speak to that a little bit too. It's hard to be mentally engaged as a collegiate pitcher for 5, 6, 7 innings. And Dan was able to do that a lot of times. And there are innings where it's not even your fault, where we would score 6 or 7 runs. You're sitting on the bench for 25 minutes, and all of a sudden it's time to go pitch again, and you've lost your train of thought. And I don't need to go into how many walks our pitchers have had over the past 10 years. It's, I think, 10,000. Anyway, so, I'm just kidding. So it's one of those things where Dan always seemed ready to go. And I, as someone who has to stat the games and be out there the whole time, appreciated him throwing strikes and doing a good job for the team.
Dan, as you think about your time with baseball and stuff, how have you transitioned and how have you evolved over the last 4 years?
Oh, I mean, I wish I could say I was a little bit more precise than Zach's saying right now. I mean, but it's been a really good experience overall. Mostly just the bonding with the guys for me personally. I think it's the part where it's involved in most, just building those relationships.
And as you think about like some memories from your times pitching, being on the team, being a part of it all.
I mean, the first one that comes to mind is the gauntlet, but we can pass that one over. So I think as far as games go, I think the E-Town game last year was by far one of my favorite ones. Will Welston, the home run to put us ahead by 1 during the 9th inning. I was just randomly throwing over the side and somehow got put in the game. We ended up winning that game, so it was awesome. Probably one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, I actually didn't get up to that game, but I was paying attention to it on like live stream and everything, and that truly was one of those memorable experiences and exciting times that will just last forever and everything. Kyle, I didn't get a chance to ask you like what a memory or two was for you. Do you have any that come to mind?
I mean, I kind of side with Mike. I feel like anywhere we went as a team, like we found some kind of lake or a pond to jump in. And so, I mean, it's just like thinking back to all those relationships with the guys where, I mean, they'll be at the top for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So
yeah, no, I think you mentioned, Dan, you mentioned a couple of big games. It's amazing looking back over the schedule the past 4 years, how many big games or weird games or important games or high scoring games that this group played in. And you can go down through the list of games. I remember last year's 3-game sort of annihilation of Gallaudet, and just how the offense came together for this like 36-hour span where it was incredible. And the Lebanon Valley game last year where you guys didn't win, but it was just a kind of a cool game to play that many innings. I think it was 13, and to go back and forth with a quality program like Lebanon Valley. I remember joking with my brother who was working there and keeping stats that he was getting all mad every time we go to the next inning because it was getting closer and closer to dark and things like that. But those are fun games to play in, and you guys, playoff appearance for the program as well. And again, some of those games in upstate New York were pretty important games. And, in terms of some of the people you guys have played with who have moved on already, getting to play with some All-Americans and getting to play with some guys who really left their mark. I think that you guys helped them along the way as well. And, getting to play, we make fun of it, but getting to play at Charger Field and getting to play in front of some of your friends and family a lot of times on some nice days and things like that. You guys have seen a lot of changes at LBC, and it's been an important time for the program going forward. You had a coaching change and worked through that. Obviously, it wasn't that big of a change because Frank was on the staff, but still need something to be able to handle that and listen to a new voice and things like that. And I think this group has really matured over the 4 years, despite the lake jumping apparently. But I think it's something that can be said, and you guys can be proud of, that you did see that growth on and off the field throughout your 4 years. That's what we're hoping for when you come in as freshmen. And I think, speaking for the athletic department, I feel good about this group of seniors leaving LBC and having made their mark and matured throughout their time. Frank, I'll just go right into you then from that. Maybe you can speak on that just a little bit. You've been with this group 4 years, not as the head coach all 4 years, but you've been with the group for 4 years. So talk about their maturation process, I guess, from freshmen to seniors. And then this will be the depressing part of the podcast. Talk about the team that last day going into spring break. You weren't in Lancaster when we were making some of these decisions or finding some of these things out. We talked to Jen Weitzel about the softball team, kind of going through the same thing earlier. You're kind of just getting phone calls, texts, Monday, Tuesday, hey, we're hearing some things, not really sure, to Wednesday, Thursday, like, hey, Frank, I think you need to be able to tell the team that we're not doing this anymore, to like Thursday night where, Frank, you need to tell the team that, like, you can play tomorrow and then we're done. So I know you guys were looking forward to that tough non-conference schedule, starting NEAC play and things like that. So Frank, maybe you can discuss some of those things.
Yeah, so definitely with this group of guys, I mean, each one of them were definitely a quieter group when they first came in, not a lot of words being said. And then to their senior year, some guys are more vocal, but the one-on-one experience that these guys have had with the underclassmen it's something that has really like matured them. I would definitely say this group of guys have definitely left a strong foundation for what Charger baseball is and what it's going to be in the future. And this group of guys has just made my job just so much easier this year with their leadership on this team. Spring break-wise, with the whole COVID-19, the day before we left, there was obviously talk about, hey, this might be a possibility. Prepare yourself if you would happen to get the call. And obviously going down, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to actually get that call. Like, we're going to be fine. We're going to play down here. We're going to head back home. And then come Wednesday, our off day, we saw, hey, major leagues are starting to get shut down. All right, this is kind of becoming a little serious. And then Thursday night after our Bethany game, talked with our AD, and he's like, hey, you got to talk to your team. And obviously a lot of emotions there. Definitely the toughest conversation I've had to do in my life, more than most likely. But being able to be real and have a relationship with these guys. And it was definitely an emotional conversation because obviously then coming Friday, you get the win, you get that momentum, and it just started kind of seeming like everything was clicking and like, hey, I want to get back and let's go after our tough non-conference schedule. And then realizing, hey, like, that's not going to be the case. We got to win. let's hug, let's take pictures, let's have a good time. Then we were back on the bus and we're heading back up north.
You know, Frank, I think one of the coolest things that I think happened that I know in particular for you, that final game, you made it a senior game and gave all the guys the opportunity to play that day. How did you decide, you know what, I'm not sure if we're going to get any more games or not. I'm just going to make this one for all these guys to remember. How do you come to a decision like that?
Definitely after the Thursday night game, went back to our condo and put together a lineup with all the seniors in it. Colin Meyer said he wanted to play shortstop, so he played short. Zim, who's had some arm trouble, he wanted to go until he couldn't anymore. And each inning it was kind of, Z, all right, coach, I'm going back out there. All right, we'll just keep going. Like there was really nothing really to lose, so let's make it memorable for him. Mike Van Dame almost hitting a home run over 400 feet, and then Kyle Eversaw, Nate McFarland. Like it was just that game was just something special. Obviously, it's not how you want their careers to end, but it's definitely special to see an all senior lineup at 1 through I think 5 or 6 was all seniors, and it was a fun game.
So Frank, I'll stick with you here. Just we talked about the team having some success on the field the past couple of years. You've been a big part of that on the coaching staff side. But like we kind of talked about with a few of the guys, and we can talk about all of them, I think, such a positive influence off the field. We don't need to get into how the baseball team maybe was when you were here. Not to say they were bad guys, there's good guys, but I'm not sure that influence off the field was as prevalent when you were here at the beginning of the decade to when we're, starting this decade, where we've got, class presidents and student union presidents and people who are, working jobs on campus, or just positive people around campus who the students, whether they're student athletes or not, are gravitating towards the baseball team now, where that may not have always been the case. How did that transformation take place over the past couple of years?
So I definitely say, Bob, you were at our breakfast last year when I took these, at the time, juniors, but now seniors out. And it was just kind of a conversation of, hey, what do you want? Like, as we're changing culture and getting their input and them knowing where I'm coming from, then you kind of putting a whole game plan together, and having upperclassmen wanting that type of change. And then obviously us being a very servant-minded team kind of really helps with the perspective of the baseball program. And it's just a great group of guys. So like I said, it makes culture easier to change when you have guys that are bought into it.
All you guys have talked about, like, just the brotherhood of the team and everything. And you had fall ball, but the spring season, you all had to adjust to a new norm and of not having the batting cages upstairs and everything there. Fortunately, though, you had a lot of good outside weather in February that you could be outside and doing a lot of things. But even still, the season's short and it got cut short. How'd you get so close so quickly this year as a team? Because some of you have even mentioned some of the underclassmen just being significant parts of your memories right now. And any of you can answer this one. So,
it's honestly kind of shocking to think about how close we got in such a short amount of time. But I know, like, so like our leadership team that coach put together, like we had so many meetings, and we would start talking at 8:30, and we would look at our phones and be like 12:30 at night, and we'd be like, holy cow, like that just went by so fast. So like we got really close as a team, and then we try to do a lot of like team activities in the fall, and that just carried on in the spring. And with the recruits that coach brought in, they just fit into the culture right away, and we all just bonded super quick. It's kind of hard to describe, but it was a blast.
Have you all seen, like, what has been the development of even you guys as players and a team from your freshman year to where you are today? Don't all answer at once. It'll be okay.
Could you repeat the question again?
You in the last 3 to 4 years, how has even just the teamwork and the team unity gotten so much better? Like, what are some of the differences that you've seen from the past to like that wasn't there that you have now today?
I would say our team this year, we didn't want to leave anybody out. And so everybody, we just want to make them all feel welcome with whatever outside of school activities we were doing. And I feel like that's something that wasn't always there in the past. And I think that was definitely a big factor in us growing so close, so quick together.
Just following up on that, I think one of the main focuses was also like tearing down the walls that you can put up between each other. And I think we took care of that and broke some walls down and grew closer together.
Yeah, for sure. It's been fun watching the baseball team just consistently grow and be a group of guys that people do want to be around, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, I'll ask one more general question before we get to kind of wrap this up. I'm just looking back at the roster from your freshman year, and I'm seeing seniors' names like Nate Burns and Doug Gunlook and Gabe Yoder and Justin Taylor. Who are some of the guys maybe, and it doesn't have to be that class, maybe it was when you were sophomores or maybe even last year, who are some of the guys that maybe have moved on that you guys took maybe a leadership pointer or cue from during your time as underclassmen that you maybe tried to use for this year's underclassmen throughout this shortened season?
I think the biggest one that comes to mind is Braden Elliott. I was a sophomore when he was a senior. But like he just led by example. He didn't speak up much. He was quiet, but he was a hard worker. He knew what he was supposed to do, and he knew his role on the team. But he also speaks up when he needed to, which I find so much joy from just looking at him and be like, okay, this is the leadership I want to be when I'm in a position of leadership. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to know my role and speak when I need to speak. And something I have always valued him in that leadership quality.
Yeah, and to go off of McFarland, I have two names that come up right away. Is Braden Elliott is one of them, and then Josh Mayer. I'll start with Josh Mayer first. He was just always super friendly with everybody. Always when he would see you, give you a big like high five, hug, be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, how you doing? So he was really personable with everybody on the team, and it didn't matter if you were a freshman, if you were a senior, if you were a starter, if you were like a role player, it didn't matter. He was just always really friendly with everybody across the board. And Braden was really good at being one-on-one with people and kind of diving in like to that relationship like deeper than baseball. And so those were two people that I wanted to like mold my leadership around.
You know, COVID-19 has hit. It's hit so many different people in a lot of different ways. Some of you guys will be back next year just because you have some extra classes you need to take or whatever, and maybe not playing baseball. Who knows? Maybe you will if you decide to do that and everything. And some were planning on graduating here in May, and obviously that graduation is not going to happen. How has COVID-19 like changed your attitude, your mind, your view, or whatever? Like, have you moved on from it already, or you know, I know the world hasn't moved on from it yet, but like, how are you coping and dealing with it? Like, what happens when Coach Frank sits down with you on Thursday night of spring break and says, you know what, guys, tomorrow's our last game of the year, and that's got to be a hard pill to swallow.
Very hard.
Yeah. One thing for me, at least, I gotten like kind of past the point of it, but then I think it was last week on Tuesday or whatever. My grandparents had texted me saying like, "Hey, we're gonna be coming out to the game at the Clipper tonight, but just wanted to check in with you, how you're doing and everything." And when they texted me that, I was like, man, like that, I was really looking forward to that game this season, and to miss that game is kind of a bummer. So, but For me, I mean, I've started working again, so still trying to get over it, but it's definitely a challenge.
Any of you other guys dealing with it or have found how you're dealing with it well?
I mean, I'll go off what Mike said. I got the same text from an aunt saying that like tonight would have been the Clipper game. And this weekend, or that same weekend, I saw on my mom's schedule, we were supposed to be playing Penn State Abington. And it just kind of hit me. It was like, man, that's like the NEAC series, one of the ones that we were all looking forward to. And so like it's been a struggle. I mean, as a senior, this is the last time you're playing baseball. So you try and get over it, but it's still a struggle. And so we'll get over it eventually. But it's one of those things that you'll always like kind of miss like deep down.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the questions we had sent to you a little bit earlier, Zach put together some of them. I talked about like the hard work you guys all do. And we don't always see all the hard work that goes on with baseball. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and your field's way out past the rest of the campus and everything, and just a lot of the time in the gym. You guys have put the hard work in, and that wasn't always the case for LBC baseball. What are your hopes for LBC baseball moving forward now that you might not be playing in the future here, if this truly was your last season? Where do you see the program going? And I'd love for each of you to give it a shot at that. Colin, will you go first?
Could you come back to me? I need to think a little bit.
Sure. Sure. You. Bo, you got any thoughts?
Good, Colin. All right. So, I feel like where we left off is like something that some of the younger leaders on the team is something that they can pick up on. Like, I feel like all the underclassmen that are under us, like juniors through freshmen now, like I feel like they have a good sense of what we want to do with this program, like what Coach Frank wants with this program. And I feel like the leaders that are going to be stepping up next year, I feel like they're going to continue to go on that mission that Coach Frank has for us. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, good. What do you got, Nate?
I think my thought is, like Bo said, just like continue to, they know what we wanted this year, and just continue with that to build that culture and just do better than us too. Like we might have did a good job, but like still grow in that and be like, okay, let's do it a little bit better this year. Let's make some improvements that we have seen that need to be improved, but improve that. Yeah.
Cool. Kyle?
I think for me, I would just like everybody to keep on putting relationships and becoming a brotherhood in front of success on the field. And it's kind of funny, the most successful teams that I've played on have been the closest teams as a brotherhood and as a family. So I just want everybody to keep on putting that as a priority.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
There's a lot of great leaders that are still on this team, and leaving the team, I guess it was early Saturday morning when we got back on, or late Saturday night when we got back on the bus, just saying final goodbyes. Like I knew that there was a solid core left for next year too. So I'm excited for them.
Yeah. Dan?
I think for me, I thought we built a pretty decent foundation from the build upon, but helping them remember that it's more than just baseball. We got relationships with other classmates at school. We got these guys, we got to know them personally, not just as baseball players. But hey, my brothers are around me, and what am I going to do with them? And what's going on in their lives? And how can I help them?
Yeah, very cool.
And just remember, you got to remember that. And I really hope they just remember the major in the majors and minor in the minors, and just remember each other. So.
Yep. What do you think, Colin?
I think they summed it up pretty well. The one thing I would just advise for Coach Frank is to hire a good recruiting coach. Possibly, maybe.
Say you putting a pitch in there, Colin.
Just a little.
the other thing that I would all encourage you guys with is, I know it's become a fun thing when coach brings back alumni guys to come back. And I hope that you guys will be a part of that tradition and make that a priority in your lives. Just keep coming back and investing in the current team. Even though you might not be on the team day to day, first off, the guys that are still there. You might not know the freshmen necessarily, but definitely come back, be a part of it. Whoop up on the current team like alumni like to try and do every time, but it's always interesting to see how that plays. So I hope to see you guys coming around and being a part of this so many more times.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap up, I think this has been a group of guys that kind of like Frank said, maybe it was a little quieter, but just the impact you guys are leaving. I think we talk about it sometimes in athletics. I don't know that we're going to see the impact that you guys left maybe until 3-4 years down the road when the freshmen from this year are seniors and they start dropping Nate McFarland, Bo Hagee, and all your guys' names of, hey, that was a really short season, but man, in those 6 weeks, I learned all this stuff. And Bob and I, and even Frank a little bit, get a chance to work with one of the freshmen, Blake Greenlee, and it was amazing. Even, he was kind of around the program the past couple of years because his brother was on the team, but he instantly was shocked about how close the group was. We would ask, hey, how's baseball? He would say, it's great. Like we're just all together. And this was like the first week of September. I'm like, Blake, I think they're kind of pulling your leg, man. Like, but no, it turned out it was exactly right. Like everyone was that close so quickly that it was amazing. And I heard that firsthand from Blake all throughout the fall, throughout the winter, and into the spring as well. So I think that's one of the things that you guys are leaving here. We can talk about the wins and the hits and the averages, and that's great, and that's baseball. But I think the impact that you guys are leaving is something really special, and hopefully we can all kind of say that we were here when you guys were here, and that was pretty cool. I get the question a lot that, hey, what's your favorite sport to cover and watch? And my answer is always, if it's a nice day in the spring, there's nothing better than being out at the baseball field, and I miss that this year big time. Those days are so long, and there are so many pitchers and so many innings, but at the same time, if it's 70 degrees and nice, there's very few places on our campus that are better than sitting behind that cage and watching you guys play. So I missed that this year. The Clipper game was going to be a ton of fun for myself, just because my brother was going to come down and we were going to do the play-by-play together, and that was going to be a great night and things like that. So I missed that too. When we changed the calendar from March 31st to April 1st, I realized it was going to be the night before. That kind of was like, oh man, every once in a while I look at the calendar like, oh, we would have had something today. And as much as I'm enjoying a free spring, some of those dates do come back, and I think about them. So I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight and talking about baseball and life and this kind of weird season that we're all in. And appreciate Frank coming on too and kind of talking about you guys and his help with the article that we wrote. So we'll end the podcast the way we always used to do. Frank's the vet of the podcast these days too at this point. So thanks again, guys, and go Chargers, go.